Hello everyone. Today I'll be discussing an essential topic in English grammar, degrees of comparison. Degrees of comparison refer to the different forms of adjectives and adverbs that show the relative quality or degree of a person, thing, or action in relation to others. These are crucial for effectively describing and comparing subjects in both written and spoken language. There are three main kinds of degrees of comparison: the positive degree, the comparative degree, and superlative degree. Each type plays a vital role in making comparisons, which I'll explain in detail on the following slides. The positive degree. The positive degree is the basic form of an adjective or adverb. It expresses a small quality without making any comparison. For example, the house is big or John is smart. Notice that these sentences describe qualities without comparing them to others. Next, let's see the comparative degree. The comparative degree is used when comparing two people, things, or action. This form often involves adding er, ier, or using more before the adjective or adverb. For example, the house is bigger than the apartment, or John is smarter than his friend. Next one, superlative degree. The superlative degree is used when comparing more than two people, things, or action to show the highest or lowest degree of a quality. Words like est, iest, or most are added to this. Examples: the house is the biggest on the street, or John is the smartest student in the class. Let's start with how degrees of comparison are formed. First, some adjectives form the comparative degree by adding R to the base form and the superlative degree by adding ST. Here are some examples: brave, braver, bravest; fine, finer, finest; large, larger, largest; nice, nicer, nicest; simple, simpler, simplest; wise, wiser, wisest; noble, nobler, noblest; white, whiter, whitest. Next, we have adjectives that form comparisons by adding er and est. For example, rich becomes richer in the comparative degree and richest in the superlative degree. Similarly, you could see clever becomes cleverer in the comparative degree and becomes cleverest in the superlative degree. Here you could see the another pattern. For adjectives ending in y, you should drop the y and add ier for the comparative degree and iest for the superlative degree. Some examples are costly, costlier, costliest; heavy, heavier, heaviest; happy, happier, happiest. Now let's see the adjectives where the final consonant is doubled. These words doubled the last consonant before adding er and est. Here are some examples: big, bigger, biggest; or fat, fatter, and fattest. Some adjectives and adverbs form comparisons by using more for the comparative degree and most for the superlative degree. These are often adjectives with two or more syllables. For example, beautiful becomes more beautiful and most beautiful. One more example, important, which changes to more important and most important. Lastly, there are irregular comparisons that don't follow any standard rules. For example, good becomes better in the comparative degree and best in the superlative degree. Similarly, you could see bad changes to worse and then to worst. These forms need to be memorized as they don't fit into a regular pattern. Next, let's see the rules for changing the degrees of comparison. Positive degree, we use no other to show rule number 1. For rule number 1, positive degree, we use no other to show something is unique without ranking. For example, no other metal is so hard as iron. Comparative degree, you have to replace so as with any other plus than to compare directly. Example, iron is harder than any other metal. For superlative degree, you have to use the plus superlative form to show the highest degree. Example, iron is the hardest metal. Next, let's see rule 2. For rule 2, positive degree, you have to use very few to show the subject belongs to a small group. For example, very few boys are as clever as Balu. Next, comparative degree. While changing the positive degree to comparative degree, you have to replace as with more than for direct comparison. Example, Balu is more cleverer than many other boys. Superlative degree, we have to use one of the plus most or est to show the subject is a part of a higher group. For example, Balu is one of the cleverest boys. Then rule 3, we have to use not so as to show the subject has a lesser degree of the quality when compared to the other subject. Example, China is not so hard as India. Then while changing the positive to comparative, you have to replace not so as with more than or the direct comparative comparison. For example, India is hotter than China. And for this particular rule, there is no need to use superlative degree. That concludes our today's session. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it.